Hello. How are you? I'll give it another minute just to see if anybody else joins us. Yep, a few more. Hello, guys. Another lovely sunny day and we're inside drawing. So we have got 3 more characters to draw today. We're going to start with Homer Simpson. And then you've almost completed your set of Simpsons drawings. We've got the main characters out of the way. We're also going to do a stormtrooper's helmet from Star Wars. It's quite a nice drawing, actually. It's quite simple, some quite simple lines. And then we're also going to draw Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. So without further ado, let's get started with Homer. I've opened a new Sharpie today, so I get quite excited when I use new equipment. So I've got a nice sharp end to this. So we're going to start with Homer's eyes. We've started with the eyes with most of the Simpsons characters. And again, this character's looking over to our right. So the eye on the left is the full circle. So again, about a 5p piece size. And the pupil's just looking over to the left this time. So if you remember back to the other Simpsons characters, we're not going to quite draw a full circle this time. We're going to come part of the way around, and then we have this nose shape that all of the characters have had. We're going to put Homer Simpson's pupil just in the middle of his nose. So this time, a little bit like on Bart when we drew Bart, I think Marge had it as well yesterday. The mouth is open, so we're going to come all the way around the bottom, about halfway again between where the nose is, and then we're going to come up and round, and we're going to follow this kind of a shape and back up towards his nose. Now we've got the other side of Homer's mouth there, and we've got a few teeth. Just the indication of some teeth there, and then we'll add a tongue. So Homer has a similar shaped head to Bart, except that we don't have the spikes on top. So if we come just about level with the top of Homer's mouth where the nose is, we're going to go up from there. Now, as we've just got beyond the eyes, probably about 0.5 centimetre above, we're going to start curving round. And we're going to do a semicircle that comes down to there. And then before we join the eye, we're just going to do a small bump. I guess that's his eyebrow. Now, Homer has 2 strands of hair. One just like that sits absolutely on top. But then the second one starts within the head here and goes up and further around. And that just looks as though that's sitting on top of his head a little bit more. And he has it's like an upside down W or an M shape to the side there. And we are already starting to look like Homer Simpson. We have the same ear that we've had with all of our Simpsons characters. And there's just a couple of details in there just to show the ear. And then the neck comes down almost level with the chin on this side. We're going to continue the neck on the other side slightly lower, so it's slightly lower than that. And that's because Homer's wearing a shirt where we can see the collar. So we've made a couple of lines, almost another W shape in there, or a zigzag line. And then we just want to see it going around the back of his neck with another line there. Don't close that line off just yet, because that's actually where Homer's shoulder lies. So again, we're going to start on this side because I'm right-handed. If you're left-handed, you might want to start over on the right-hand side. But if I start on the left, I'm not really going to be smudging too much. If I started here over on the right, as I then come over to do the left hand, I'm going to smudge the marker. And these Sharpies, like we've said before, they take a little bit of they take a few seconds to dry. Okay, let's draw the top of the or the bottom of the t-shirt, the shirt. So we've got a line, and then we've got the shoulder shape, which is almost a semicircle that comes over the top there, and then coming out of that we've got a line which comes diagonally out and curves back up. So that's one part of his arm, and the other part touches the corner of his t-shirt and just comes down a little way there. As always, these characters in The Simpsons have got 3 fingers and 1 thumb. So we're just going to get those 3 fingers in there, and then the thumb over to the side, making sure that that's shorter than the other fingers, because your thumb is slightly shorter, or at least Homer's is. I don't really like the shape of that there. So I've just added that. We can just about see a thumbnail on there. So let's come over onto the other side now. So we're going to just follow the shape of Homer's body. We've got a little bit of a wider area there. And this is almost going to make a triangular shape. I'll show you what I mean in a second. So Homer's body is almost a triangular shape. If you wanted to make it a basic shape, we can now follow that collar around a little bit, but it's sitting behind the shoulder. So we've got the other side, the other shoulder now. So a curved line there, and then one there. It looks different to this side because it's behind him, so we can see the body there. So it just gives us a little bit of a more realistic look to it. So Homer's hand to the right, he's actually holding a donut. Of course, it would definitely be a donut or a tin of beer, wouldn't it? So we've got one small line just towards the top, and then we can't see where the other part of the arm connects up to the shoulder because his body's in the way. So we're going to come up and around. I guess it's like a letter J that we've drawn there. And we can see one finger this side into his hand, and then we've got a couple of fingers sticking out on this side. His arm's coming up into his thumb, and then we've got a donut. So we want a curved line meeting under there. There's a bite taken out of it, and then the rest of the donut's coming around there. We've got a oval shape, and then we're just going to do a wiggly line going around the side there, and you can add a few sprinkles. We can just see that side of the donut there. So he's got his donut in his hand. He looks happy. Okay. So we can just see a little bit of his bottom coming out there, and then straight into the trousers. We've got a line which is level with the collar of his shirt, making sure we don't touch the top there, because this is actually below, this is below his waist, isn't it? And that is going to connect up to there. So there's the rest of his tummy, and then his other leg is another straight line down from the other side, and we've got some slightly curved lines just to show the bottom of his trousers, and there's a little detail in there. We can add a couple of creases if we wanted to do that. And then we've got both of these shoes are a side-on profile, so they both look like shoes. We've drawn a few shoes that are face-on in the last couple of sessions. And then the other shoe is sticking out the back, but it's being obscured by the first shoe, so we see more of the front shoe. A little bit of shine on his top shoes, and I think we're done. I'm quite happy with that. There's Homer. I'm sure my daughters will be happy with that one. Okay, on to the next one. So we're going to have a go at a stormtrooper. To start with, pop your paper in landscape orientation. So we're going to draw some straight lines. If you want to use a ruler, I'll give you a second to maybe get a ruler or something like that if it's going to make it easier. I'm going to attempt to do this just freehand because I don't need them to be perfectly straight. So what we're going to do, there's a lot of straight lines on this. So the first one, we're going to draw a line. It's not quite the whole width of the paper. And like I've said, I'm pulling the pen towards me. That's how I tend to get the most accurate. And we're going to do another line, the same length, about 1 centimetre away from the original line. Okay. We're going to close those two lines off now. Now, roughly find the centre point of this. Don't make a mark there. And then we're going to go up to towards the top of the paper. Now, I'm about just over 1 centimetre away from the very top. I just want you to put a dot there. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do a curved line that meets that dot, flattens out, and comes around here. So almost a semicircle. If you were going to draw a circle, it would complete it round at the bottom there. So I'm going to take it from the dot first. Now people ask me how I make a line like that so neat. What I want you to do is I want you to get this part of your hand where your little finger is, the knuckle of your little finger, and I want you to anchor that down onto the paper. And then what we do is we move our wrist, but we keep that anchored down. So if I show you again, I'm going to go from here to here. So I'm finding where the pen's hitting the mark, and I'm going to anchor that down to the paper or to the table, and then using my wrist, like a compass I guess, I'm just going to follow that round. And you can get quite an accurate circle with that. If I was going to continue this round, I would do the same thing and I would bring that round there. So that's how I tend to draw circles. Obviously, if you're doing something and you want it to be super neat, then you can use a compass. We've got a couple of little details on the side here. Okay. Now this stormtrooper is looking at us front on. So on the side of the stormtrooper's head, we have these, I'm not entirely sure what they are. I guess they're probably the ears, or the area that the ears are, some sort of hearing device. And we've just got really 3 rectangles getting gradually smaller. So the next one is smaller than the first, and then the final one is the smallest of all. So we've got this sort of shape here. We're going to mirror that exactly the same on this side. So making sure that we've got them roughly the same length. Ideally the same length, really, if you were doing this and you wanted it to be super neat, you were going to display it maybe. So you could measure that. And then we've got another one which is not quite as long as the original one, and then the last one sits in the center of that. So we're coming on to the eyes now. I guess they look a little bit like swimming goggles or something. So starting from about halfway up the hearing device, we're going to draw a diagonal line down about 2 centimeters. So do that on both sides. And now we need to find our midpoint again. So roughly there. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line that comes up to here, but leave a gap between this line and don't quite go towards the dot. So we're going to leave a gap there, and the same thing. So down to the corner there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to curve the lines around. So we've got that sort of shape. About 1 centimetre away from the lines, these bottom lines, we're going to do a very similar thing. And then on the top here, we're about 0.5 centimetre away from the top line. So I want that shape. This line is closer to this line than these are. We then curve those round. And that gives us the eye. Now this is, let's do it. we're okay for time. We've not taken half an hour on any of the lessons for the last couple of days. So these are black. I think this is black as well. I think the line across the top's black as well. So if you're using a Sharpie or you've got a felt tip pen or something there, just remember, like I've said before, this does come through. So you can see on here, you can already see Homer on there. So this does come through the paper. So make sure you've got something underneath so that you don't ruin mum and dad's table or whatever it is that you're drawing on. I've actually got some card underneath me as well. Okay, so we're going to do exactly the same on this side now then. So about 1 centimetre away from this side, we're going to have a diagonal line down, and then about 1 centimetre from the bottom area, and then this side just making sure that this is roughly level. And again, if you had a ruler, you could just put a ruler across there and make sure it's spot on. Curve that round, curve that round, curve that round. Just neaten those lines up there, a little bit untidy. And then fill that out. The thing with these Sharpies, they don't leave streaks. You get some cheap felt tip pens and they leave quite a lot of streaks, and you can get some fantastic colours in these Sharpies as well. So they're something that you can definitely use and make your drawings look a little bit more professional. It's not really left any streaks in there, not too many. Okay, so we're going to join a line from there to there. So we've just got a small diagonal line, and now we're going to come to the sort of the, looks like the mouth area, I guess. We're going to have a diagonal line coming down from either side, from the outer edge of that triangle that we've created there and there. I'm guessing that's about 3 centimetres long, so just a little bit longer than my thumb. We're going to find that midpoint again. It's always important that we know roughly where a midpoint is, and I'm going to arc a line, and it's a much shallower curve than the top of the helmet. Again, we're going to find the midpoint above that, just over 1 centimetre away, and I'm starting not quite in the corner. I'm using that same method. I'm keeping my knuckle of my little finger anchored to the table. And then we're going to just add in some vertical lines. In there. We're going to continue this diagonal line down about the same length as we already had. If anything, it's possibly slightly longer. So we're going to do a, I'm not entirely sure how I'd describe that. So watch the shape that I'm going to draw. Almost an upside down bell or something like that. It's a Christmas decoration type of shape. I always like to try and find things that the lines resemble. It makes it easier for me to get them right. Okay, so coming onto the side of the stormtrooper's face now, let's go level with this mouth and let's draw a line that comes out and curves around. Same on this side, so diagonally down a few centimetres, maybe 3.5 centimetres, and then starts to curve round. Now we're going to use our method of anchoring our little finger to the table. We're going to go from this corner to here, touching that line. So watch. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So let's get a dot about in the middle of the curve. It's slightly wider than the head. I'm going to go from this side. I'm going to turn my drawing upside down now because I can then, that's the direction that I'm going to go. So starting from here, I'm going to touch the middle dot and I'm going to come round to the corner of the ear or listening device, whatever that is. Okay, so it's starting to look like a stormtrooper. We've got some vertical lines on the side here. And the same on this side. How many did I do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Make sure you've got the same amount on either side. 3, 4, 5, 6. They're just little details that I always like to try and make sure that I've done, just so that it doesn't look odd. Okay, so let's start now with, I'm guessing this is the type of gas mask or breathing device that they use. So we've got some sausage shapes. So that's the middle one, and then we're going to do 3 to each side. They're a little bit like this. They're going to get progressively smaller. So the next one is only just a little bit smaller. The next one is quite a bit smaller. They're all about the same width, about 1/2 centimetre. And then finally, the last one is there. So we've got the centre one, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do the same thing on this side. And then to the side, either side of this, we've just got some, about a 5p piece size circle, same distance apart. And then we've got a bigger circle around that. Try and use your wrist to do the circles rather than your fingers all the time. That's how we get a slightly smoother line. Okay, so coming from this line now that we've drawn diagonally down, we're going to continue down and round, and we're going to follow this around, and it's going to connect back up to this area here. So same thing again. Where did I come from? Started from here, came diagonally down, around those 2 circles, and then back into this shape that we drew there. And then finally we're just going to close, whoops, this area off here. So we're going to come down, flatten the bottom out, and then curve up to the last but one of those parts of the breathing apparatus. So last but one there, curve it round, flatter at the bottom, and then our curve there. And there you have our stormtrooper. So that was interesting. There's lots of straight lines. I like drawing things sometimes with a few straight lines. Right then, last one. We're going to draw Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. He's a nice character to draw. We're going to start with the eyes. We quite often start with eyes. So these eyes are on a diagonal slant. So this eye on this side is slightly higher up. So we're going to have, they're not round, these eyes. They are like Tic Tacs, if you know what Tic Tacs are. Or a tablet. This one on this side is slightly more square, and that's because of the angle that we're going to be looking at this character. There are 2 small circles which we're going to leave white, and then just fill out the eyes, making sure that we don't go over that white circle. And then this side as well. Okay, so in the middle, no, actually we're not going to start with the nose. Around the eyes we've got a similar shape, a line going all the way around. And similar on this side. Everything on this right hand side is slightly bigger. It's just going to give us a slightly better or different perspective that we're looking at. So this one's slightly bigger than this. And then in the middle, we have got a nose. It's touching this side, but it's not touching this side. So we're going to come over and round. But it's touching this left-hand eye. And then we've got his nostrils, which I guess we can colour in black. And then we've got 3 wrinkles getting slightly smaller over the top of his nose. Okay, so we're going to now do, or start with the mouth. It's as wide as the eye on this side, and oh yeah, it's almost as wide on both sides. So we're going, it's not quite a straight line, it's got a little bit of a curve to it. And there's just a little smile crease there. And then we've got a curved line underneath, not quite starting right out to the edge there, so it's just slightly in. And up to that side. Now he has 2 sharp teeth at the top with a big gap in between. So 2 small triangles. And he has 1 on this side, on the bottom, and 1 there. And then in there we can see just a few lines that show us where his tongue is. So what we'll do is just around the teeth, not touching the tongue or the teeth, we're just going to fill in that gap. So not touching the teeth on this side and not touching the tongue either. There we go. Right then, let's get the top of Stitch's head in. So just above his left eye, we've got like an eyebrow shape, and then a small curved line going up towards, not quite in the middle of his nose. And then we've got a tuft of hair on the top. And then this curves around to this side, not quite touching the eye, coming slightly wider for his cheek, not quite touching the smile, and then following around back up to this side where it actually just goes behind his eye, so we can't quite see the other side of his face there. We've got a little eyebrow on this side. Okay, good. So onto his ears. So he's got these 2 great big ears. They look like Dumbo's ears. So starting from just underneath the eye, we're going to draw a line that comes up and out that way, right to the edge of your page. And then we're going to curve that back round, not quite to the bottom because there's a triangular shape that looks like there's a piece missing out of his ear. And then back into that side, and then we're going to just follow underneath and a line there. So this is the inside of his ear, that would be the outside. Okay, so starting from, where are we? About halfway up his nose, if we draw a line out, or we get a measurement out to there, we're going to come up and around, and And then we're taking this back in on itself so that we've got looks like a leaf. And then we've just got a couple of lines. That's the outside part of his ear, and that's the other outside part. Good. Okay, so starting on this left side now. And what you'll notice with a lot of these characters that we've been drawing, there's a lot of things that are very similar. So how we draw these arms were very similar to how we drew Homer's arms and a couple of characters that we did, I think, yesterday. So we've got these curved lines that represent the forearm and the upper arm. And this time we can only see two of Stitch's fingers, and he's got a little claw on them. So we've got two claws that we can see on that side. And then we can see Stitch's body. I'm guessing this part would be a different colour to the rest of his body. I think he's a purpley blue colour, if memory serves me right. So we've got that type of shape. It's almost if you've ever seen peanuts that come in their shells, or it could be a figure of eight. If I did a couple of circles in there and there, it's almost like we've done bubble writing figure of eight. So again, try and look for these shapes that are familiar to you, and it makes it slightly easier to break the drawing down. So we've got a little tuft of hair, a little bit like what we had on the top of him there, right in the centre of his chest. And then we're just going to follow this shape down and around. Not closing it all the way around there because we've got a leg in there, but we're going to start on this side with his leg on the left just so we don't smudge. So coming from just beyond his hand into his arm, we're going to draw that shape that comes wider than his arm, and a similar curved shape on this side. And then this foot is actually pointing straight towards us, so we're looking at his toes front on. I can add some claws in there. So the bottom of his body comes across there, quite close to that shape, and then a similar shaped foot on this side. We've got those toes. We've got 4 on this side. Let's add some claws. And then finally we've got it would be his left arm, but right as we're looking at it, comes out just, doesn't quite touch that ear, so it's coming out. And then we've got a couple of lines to show the shape of his arm. And we've got this hand, but we can see the palm of his hand this time. 4 fingers, well 3 fingers and a thumb. Again, another similarity between some of the Simpson characters, and these, you do start to see these things that are all linked. And then we've got his little claws. And we can see the palm of his hand, he's got looks like a half moon shape on the palm of his hand. And that, I think, is Stitch. So let's have a quick look again at what we've done today. So we've done Homer and our Stormtrooper and Stitch. So I've enjoyed that. Again, don't forget, make sure somebody sends me the pictures. I like to see them, and I'll put them up on my Instagram and whatnot. Thanks so much for joining me again. It's been fun. I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll have 3 more characters. If you've got some ideas of who we'd like to draw, then I'm sure you can figure a way out of getting a message across to me, either on Facebook or Instagram. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks for watching again. Bye.